Hello.
Hello and welcome to the Stream of Truth. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook,
And I'm Sean Kelly.
and today we are talking about making peace with what is. And this topic came up, for me at least, perhaps for you too, Sean, I'm not sure, maybe for people listening, during the holidays. This came up really screamingly loud and clear
Yeah.
for me, um, and was something I was working through. So maybe I could just start off by telling the exact little situation that got me really thinking about this topic. It was Christmas. What's today? Today's 2 days after Christmas. So, so I'm divorced and I share custody with my really amazing former husband. And we spent Christmas Eve together at his house with the 3 kids that we share. And as well as Christmas morning with opening the presents and all that. And I was feeling so much gratitude towards my former husband, that we had a very, very contentious divorce. We had a very difficult marriage, but we actually have a fantastic post-divorce situation. And so I was just feeling so much gratitude towards him, and that we were able to spend Christmas together as a family. To me, it feels like we're still a family. And so I was just elated and just so grateful. And then my former husband was taking all the kids to Florida for about 10 days. And I ended up coming back to my house around noon on Christmas Day. And historically, it hasn't been the easiest for me to spend holidays by myself. It's not really my preference. I'm a Libra. I like to be around people. So I knew I was going to be spending most of Christmas Day by myself at this point. And I was really trying to look on the bright side. I thought, okay, I can do whatever I want today. And I have the next 9 days without the kids. I can work on projects. I can maybe come see you in Canada or whatever I want. I was really trying to look on the bright side. And I got back to my house and all the Christmas decorations were up. And I felt sad. Oh, it's Christmas. Here I am all by myself. And so my thinking mind was like, well, let's just take all the Christmas decorations down. And then maybe it won't be so painful. It'll be like, it's not really Christmas. You already had Christmas. It's not really Christmas. So I sort of busied myself by taking all of the Christmas decorations down and kind of cleaning the house and stuff like that. And I was listening to different things on YouTube about astrology, the things that interested me. And I was having a pretty good time. But I think I was avoiding my feelings, basically. And so then later in the day, you and I talked, and I could hear on your side, it was Christmas. Your mom very nicely, said, please say Merry Christmas to Tassel. And I could hear your kids. And then I just felt this wave of sadness, that, indeed it is Christmas. And indeed I am alone, and this would not be my preference. And then I had a really big cry about it. And then I did feel better. So I guess my whole point of this rather long story is I still am challenged at times by my soul's path for me in this incarnation. Clearly it was the right thing. It was the highest and best for me to spend Christmas mostly alone this year. That is what happened. So that must be the highest and best. My human just sometimes has a lot of difficulty with with some of these paths, some of these situations that my soul is taking me on. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, is how to make peace with our paths that we are on, that our human might sometimes just be in pain about.
Yeah, I think most of us will probably have an experience of some form of resentment to what seems to be the plan, or perhaps it even is directed at God or at the higher self, or at yourself, depending on how you perceive things. But yeah, there's, I think, pretty often a resentment that comes up, and like I hate this though, right? Like it sucks, I hate it. So what is this about? Like, I'm supposed to be positive and supposed to be doing all these things and service oriented and optimistic, but I hate this. I think we all go through that. I would say fairly regularly, right? Like, to varying degrees.
Yeah, I think I still am challenged by my human's dream that I had ever since I was a child. And like many of us, my childhood was very challenging in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And sort of the way that I made peace with my childhood was, oh, when I'm older, I will have a family of my own.
Right.
And I will be happy, and I will be safe, and I will be around people I love, and it will all, this fairy tale ending. That was sort of the way I got through my childhood, was to be like, okay, when I'm old enough, I'll have my own family and it'll be perfect. And that is not what my soul's plan for me was. And I still am challenged by the loss of that dream. And then it's so easy, particularly say on Christmas, to, on Facebook, all these posts of families together. And I saw this one post, it was so cute, of this video of this family on Christmas. They were all in matching pajamas and they were dancing. And my thinking mind is like, that's what I want. I want to be together with my family in matching pajamas and dancing. That's what I want. That's what my human wants. So, we'll get into more of the practices later on in the stream, but I know one practice that is so helpful for me is to stop comparing, is to just try to let go of what other people's paths are and what they're doing and how you might admire, envy their path. And so that's part of it.
I think comparing is really big. That's a really big one. I think we're like, even when we're not comparing to others, we're almost always comparing to our self. Like, we'll have an ideal self, an image of how our perfect self is, and then whenever we don't meet that, we give ourselves shit for that too. So we're either comparing against other people's lives or comparing against this idealized vision that we have of ourselves. All of that comparison will always lead to eventual, like, misstep where you don't meet something doesn't meet an expectation, and then suffering. So, like, a lot of the things that have helped me with that type of thing is literally, like, just sort of noticing that literally everyone is absolutely unique. Like, not just that they're different than each other, like they're so absolutely unique that I can't even fathom what they're learning or what's really they're going through. Like, I may get glimpses of some ideas of what's going on with them, but more or less I have no concept of their plan, their soul's plan. I can't read their seventh chakra. I can't read the violet energy center to determine the summary of that programming right now. So I don't know what they're doing. And just a deep knowing that I don't know what they're doing. They don't know what I'm doing. No one knows what anyone's doing. Everyone's very, trying to figure it out. Like, almost like, I see it kind of like we were kindergartners running all around playing with shapes and stuff. And then they've like let the gate open and let us out into the bigger yard to play with like the grade ones and the grade twos, or the first and second graders, whatever we call them. And so now we're like invited to participate with some of the more higher dimensional, higher frequency beings, and we're kind of learning all of that. We're starting to learn some of that. And so we're like running around this world that we've never really been before. It helps me just to remember that because everyone's experience is so nuanced and distinct and unique, there's such an infinite variety to every single moment they're experiencing in comparison to what you're experiencing, that like you can't really compare them. They're unified in their mystery. Like you can't really compare. Basically, the person who's very wealthy and seems very well off, let's say, will be working on just other areas, right? So they'll have abundance in financial situations, whatever, but that's not going to make them feel good. They're not going to feel fulfilled in that, because if they felt fulfilled, they would have nothing left to learn. So their learning is going to be elsewhere. And so it just may mean that, yeah, okay, my learning is in finances and theirs isn't. You could, get that. But even that, they may experience a catastrophic loss in the next 6 months or whatever, and then end up learning a whole bunch about finances. So you can't project it either, like into the future. And it's always very dynamic and changing. And if we can just like continually remind ourselves of like that, the reason it feels bad is because there's a thing here we're working on. Otherwise, it wouldn't feel bad at all. If we were like pure in that area, in that energy center, or if there was no distortion that we were working through there, or lessons, I guess you could call it, then we would feel fine. There'd be no catalyst experienced. Basically, there'd be no polarity observed. Otherwise, whenever we observe like polarity, we're using the polarity to create contrast so that we can sort of navigate that experience and learn something. So, the fact that we feel bad about something is, we've talked about this a bunch on the stream, that it's always sort of an indicator that I'm going to expand here at some point, somehow, and I'm sure I'll feel better after. But sometimes getting into that is, a bit tricky.
Yeah, I think another practice that is helpful for me, at least with this, is if I'm feeling sad that I'm not with family on Christmas or at any other time or something, to just go to the deepest truth of what is there. And to me, I think the deepest truth of what is there is that I just really love my family, and I really love people, and I really love being with people. That is, I think, the deepest truth. And that's just who I am. And just, just holding that, just being, that's the truth, that this is not my preference. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And yes, at the same time, of course, in the larger spiritual perspective, there is some beautiful reason why I'm experiencing this now, that this is an expansion for me. And I know, for instance, I'm Aries North Node, which is a lot about being alone, being okay being alone, finding oneself, really knowing oneself, etc. Yeah. So likely, I'm still working that Aries North Node energy. And then what I also want to say as a practice is, this has helped me so much. So if we have held a really precious dream in our heart for our lives, like for me to stay married and be a full-time mom and all that, and then that didn't work out. So first of all, to grieve the loss of that dream, to not gloss over that. We all know grief is a multi-step process. It's, there's anger, there's eventually acceptance, and there's this whole process of grief. So I think it's really helpful to just honor the loss of your dream, and not pretend about it, and not stuff it down, and just to, as you would a loved one who maybe has passed,
and
to honor the dream that has passed.
but how do you know that the dream's passed?
Well, that's my second point,
Okay.
because I think if you can honor what didn't quite pan out, then you energetically can make space for another dream.
Right.
And so that's a lot of what I've done over the past 5-6 years with my divorce. Is I did have to let go of this dream of being my kids' full-time parent and living with their dad, and having that kind of all-American white picket fence dream. I did have to let go of that. That was not happening. But what I realized is, okay, that dream didn't work out, but there's space for another dream. And to tune into the essence. What is the essence of these dreams for oneself? And the essence is, I like to be with family. I like to be with people. I like to feel together, like a tribe sort of energy. So, and that's the theme that runs through my dreams. So right. I may not, obviously, I was not able as my human to manifest that first dream I had. But that doesn't mean I cannot manifest another iteration of that dream.
Right.
To have that family feeling and all of that. So we may not get like the specifics of the particular dream we had as a kid, but I absolutely think we can get the essence of the dream just in another form, along with our soul's expansion that's happening at the same time. So to me, there's a really positive, a positive story here that yes, we may not get our specific childhood dreams as we're on this path of ascension, or really just any path. But I think it's absolutely possible to still get the essence of the dream.
Totally. So yeah, I have some interesting, I think, commentary on that. And I should preface some of the stuff that I say as it won't necessarily resonate for everyone. And it may feel a little upsetting, some of the things that I say. So I just wanted to sort of say that as like maybe a trigger warning. That I'm not intending to upset anybody, but I'm just trying to illustrate what I've experienced or what I recall around these things. So I like what you said about grieving the dream, like sort of letting go of it. The way that I like to think about that is that we're not, in my experience, not letting go of like the dream itself. We're just, I think, releasing some of the boundaries that we've had on the dream that we were really stuck to, like particular aspects of it that had to be just this way or just that way. We're kind of realizing that that dream may not shape up quite the way we were wanting it to. And so we're loosening a lot of the restrictions that we're putting on it. Basically, I think what we're realizing is that the reason we're upset and the reason we're not happy is because the reality is not meeting the expectations that we've like held on to, right? And so we start to release the expectations, realizing, some of them just aren't realistic to hold on to in some ways. And it's painful because it's sometimes it's stuff we've been wanting for years and years and have really energized. And it's the other thing that's really important to remember when we're like doing this process, because I think it can be a very conscious process. Like it should be a very conscious, this is how we manifest, I think, when we like sit down and really consider all of this stuff. This is what we're sort of tuning into our plan is I think really what we're doing when we're considering this stuff. What we should be doing is realizing as well, like a lot of our dreams and desires didn't truly originate in our heart. Like a lot of them, and so we can discern for ourselves what those are. Some of them we may just be born into this desire, but primarily our identity forms the desires based on observations of comfort or observations of safety, things like that, like built around our protection, our safety, our abundance, whatever it is, security. These types of things will then form what our desires are. And when we sort of wake up, what ends up happening is like the soul's desires never changed, but what happened was the human misunderstood a bit of like where their heart was pulling them as to what illusion they would then associate that with, and then turn it into this different thing. So what ends up happening is the unaligned life stories that aren't necessarily going to manifest, like it starts to become an awareness of like, this isn't going to happen. Like this thing that I was sure really wanted to happen, it's just not going to happen. I can feel that it's not going to happen. Now I have to let it go. I can just know that. And then you have to let it go. But it's important to remember that the reason that you're letting it go is because it's not for you. Like it's not for you. It was formed out of a bit of a confused state when you were younger, or when you were, not so conscious of your feelings and what paradigms you were putting yourself into, like what social agreements, contracts, all these various things that are building up as you mature. And so it's really, I think, really helpful to realize, oh, the reason that I am letting these things go is because I am meant to let them go. They weren't totally real in the first place. They were, for example, you love people, right? This could very easily as a child blossom into something like, oh, I get it. I'm supposed to be around people a lot, or because I love it. And that could very easily turn into that. I love people, therefore it's comfortable to be with people. I'll call more people in, but the soul's going, no, honey, like you're going to do a little less of that. Like you'll do a bunch of that, but you'll get your tastes and stuff, but and so then that dissonance starts to happen, and then we have to let go. We have to grieve it. We have to like loosen our dream. It's hard. It's so hard. Especially if you're dealing with children, and these other beings that you like care for so much. Any of these things, any of these deep things that you've held for a long time, it's difficult, and especially because you have to sort of realize and admit, okay, I accept it. It's if you don't have to do that, but what I'm saying is if you don't accept that that's the case, you'll just constantly recur with pain about it. So you end up needing to accept the grieving process. It's the same with the loss of a loved one or any real loss. It's no different. And when I say that it's not totally real, I don't mean that it's fake feelings or like the emotions around it are not real. I just mean the story itself was formed in a little of a confused state. And so you're like realigning is what's happening. And that it feels bad to come out of these stories. Basically.
I couldn't agree with you more with everything you have said. And a couple points that come up for me is that you're absolutely right that a lot of our human dreams revolve around staying in our comfort zone or creating a situation that really feeds our comfort zone. I'll just speak for myself. Like, I think that was a big part of my human's dream.
I think we're designed that way entirely until we begin to awaken the heart.
Yeah.
Basically.
So I can see very clearly that my original human's dream for my life was about like safety, security, not being alone, sort of knowing what was going to be happening in the next year, next 5 years, next 10 years, like sort of all planned out. And I think in a way that was, you might say, like a trauma response to my childhood, because it wasn't so secure and it didn't feel so great as a child. So basically, sort of as a trauma response, I wanted to create that in my adult life. And what I can see is, first of all, probably, I feel like I've done it so much, but probably there's more grieving to do about my childhood. So this dream I had about my adult life was in a way to try to heal the pain of my childhood. So the adult dream not manifesting in exactly the way I'd hoped points me back to, there's probably a bit more work, inner work I could do around my childhood, around grieving what wasn't in my childhood. If that comes up, I'm not saying like just go back and poke around. But if pain is coming up around it naturally, then maybe just be aware that could be some inner work that could be helpful there.
Yeah.
And so what I do understand is that my soul's plan is not around staying in my comfort zone. And I would guess that probably for most people, that would be the case, that your soul's plan is for you to expand in certain ways. And the expansion might, and for some people, the expansion could be to be in a very close family situation their whole life. That could be their expansion.
Even the soul, if you think about it from this perspective, over so many lifetimes, a soul may not know what it's like to be comfortable as well. So they may literally be experiencing comfort, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So everybody's soul's plan is really different. So we talk about this all the time, just holding both of these orientations, to be gentle with our human that might still be struggling with the specifics of their human dream not manifesting, and grieving that. And, for me, maybe holidays are a little bit hard because I still have some aspects of that human dream, that original human dream, that are just really strong in me that I haven't totally let go of. And then, as always, just holding this larger perspective and this radical trust and radical faith in your plan, in your soul's plan, that, oh my gosh, this feels uncomfortable. I'm so out of my comfort zone and I'm not quite getting the dream I had wanted as a kid, but can I just surrender and just have faith that my soul is taking me on an adventure and on a journey, and I don't really know the outcome of it, but can I have peace with that? And I think when we are balanced and we've maybe like cried a bit and sort of let out some of the pain of the human, when we come back to our balance and our center, I think we can feel the alignment. So for instance, today I'm more balanced, I'm more centered, and I can just feel in my heart, I'm not supposed to be with my kids right now. I'm not. My kids are in Florida with their dad. That feels highest and best. I know that I'm supposed to be here doing what is in my soul's path to do. I can feel that. I feel the peace of that. I do feel the alignment of that. So even though the human may be kind of like complaining or sad, I can still feel the alignment of my soul and what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Jamie mentioned something about basically that she's going to beat her high chair about it sometimes. And that's a really good analogy, I think. Like,
I love that
the
image.
human's kind of like a toddler, right? And sometimes you got to feed the toddler food it doesn't want it. And it starts to cry or spit it out or like make a fuss, or they're playing with a toy and now it's time to read a book or something, and so you have to take the toy away, and then they just have a tantrum for 20 minutes. And you know, you just let them do their tantrum. You let them experience. You respect their state. You love them, and you know, you have compassion for them going through this difficult experience of having to eat beets or whatever it is, right?
It's really the same thing. Can we be the mother to ourselves in this situation? Can we honor the human temper tantrum that doesn't always like the path of the soul?
You end up having,
it's not always easy.
I don't know about if this happens with you, but I end up having two voices that, like, so it'll sort of be like it seems to be a sort of my egoic or rational mind and the higher self sort of talking to each other. And so my rational mind will be like, I'm really sad. And then my higher self will be like, it's okay, bud, I love you. And then like weird stuff like that starts to happen. And I can kind of like observe
all the time
this back and forth inside of myself. And
I think
it's interesting.
It's great to be in that space. I think years ago, I was just in the mind space of just, you know, sometimes being flooded by my human feelings and not having that larger perspective.
Right. So
I think it's really amazing
we
to
expand
be in this space
and
where
hold
you
both.
can hear both. You hear your guidance, you hear your higher self comforting you. And, you know, almost like a coach, like, Tassel, I know this isn't easy, but you can do it. You got this.
Yeah.
And another practice that has been really helpful for me is to think about, okay, who would you have been and what would your consciousness have been had your childhood dream panned out? So had I been married this whole time and been a full-time mom to my kids, what do I think I would have been like versus who I actually am from having taken a different path?
You end up seeing all the stuff you would have missed, right? All the lessons.
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't have grown much at all.
We probably wouldn't have met.
Yeah, you and I wouldn't have met. This stream of truth would not exist.
You probably wouldn't be doing this stuff.
No, my consciousness would have been, I think, at a pretty stagnant level because I would have been, I want to say like fat and happy.
You'd have been comfortable.
I would have been totally in my comfort zone. I wouldn't have had any reason to seek.
Well, except for some areas, you know, you'd be like, what's the word? Putting up with your discomfort in certain areas to like maintain comfort in others. Tends to be what people do, right? They sacrifice certain areas to, you know, I'll sacrifice love so I can have security in my finances, or I'll sacrifice my physical body so that I can have whatever.
Exactly. And the thing is also what's nice, at least in my situation, is I made the choice. I did make the choice. I could have stayed in my marriage. I could have. That was a choice. And I made the choice to basically go after my true freedom and happiness and authenticity. So yeah, had I stayed, I would have deadened myself, dulled myself. Yes, I could have been with my kids full time, which would have been great in a lot of ways. But also, I'm not sure that would have been great because I think I could have tended to just really focus all of my attention on them and not been able to grow as an individual. So it's like looking back, I can see, oh, this really was the best path. This really has been the highest and best path, although aspects of it are very painful. And who knows, maybe certain aspects will always have a tinge of pain to them in this path that I'm on, that you're on. So it's just sort of this like recognition of like sort of the bittersweetness, the brutifulness.
My understanding of it all, just to give people an idea of what we're kind of looking forwards to as far as evolution of suffering goes, as in fourth density we'll still suffer mentally and emotionally, In fifth density, we start to build a wisdom. We isolate. We're more just within. We're not usually we're like doing the activity of a meditator, more or less at that point. We're not really talking with people. Any communications, just telepathic stuff like that. There's not a lot of at that point. There's not a lot of stuff to be worried about, other than your growth as a soul, your expansion. So you end up doing a bunch of stuff, but. So in fourth density, though, you still have these like desires to serve that are not honed with a wisdom. So you end up doing and feeling things that are sort of out of balance, out of whack, and so that continues for a while. Fourth density, we don't tend to experience any physical pain. Like when we're about to die, we just get tired in fourth density, and then we pass away. It just feels like, oh, I really need a nap. That kind of, it's very tired. Like you wouldn't even go to the doctor for it if you had that type level of tired here, in this experience. And that's the like sort of tired that you'd feel when you're ready to die as a fourth density being. So the physical pain's gone, but we still have mental, emotional pain. And so I think what we're primarily wanting to do is learn how to apply our wisdom to our love. And that's really like, because I think a lot of us are into fourth density consciousness while inhabiting the human bodies. And when we're in that state, basically our goal now is to try and bring some wisdom in as much, because we've figured out love enough to open the heart and like hit that higher level of consciousness. Now we're trying to taper some of it with some of the wisdom around how reality works, how things actually function, and how we've created how our minds function as well, like the narratives and different things like that. As we start to get all that, we can sort of realize that we choose the perspective to review each moment. We talked about this, I think, the other day in the joy video or stream. Yeah. But like in any moment of being, the reality is, and then we perceive a positive or a negative story or a neutral story. So right now we're doing the stream of truth. This is a story. It's a positive story, I would say. It's a positive experience to do the stream. Most people that are watching, I think, enjoy what we do. We don't get a lot of negative feedback or anything. So I would say this is like a positive story that we're both participating in right now. And likely we feel good about it. But that's what's happening, is that nothing's actually really happening. There's no true story here. Objectively, we're talking on a communication device, right? This is all that's really happening. The story of us enjoying it is due to our past experiences enjoying it, due to our projections of what it might do to help others, our presumptions around some of these expectations we have around what people might do with it or like about it or not like it, whatever it is. All these different things all build up into this positive experience of this seems like a good thing to do. And so what we can sort of learn is like, all of these aspects are totally moldable. I can literally just choose how I want to look at things. And a lot of people kind of get scared of this approach because they presume like that if they just change it, that the feeling, like they maybe are going to hold on to some feelings and stuff like that. And it depends. The way that they get rid of the feelings is through forgiveness. So it's always forgiveness and acceptance. So basically, if like, let's say something negative happens, I get in a car crash, right? Let's say, and I'm like, this is bad. I don't like this. I can just change my focus on why would I set myself up for this? That always pulls me out of it, is the curiosity. We've talked about a lot, but curiosity around why would I set this up for myself? I can't be curious about why I would do these things and why this is occurring while being upset at the moment, right? Or whatever it is, or being upset about what I'm gonna have to do in the future because of the moment I'm gonna have to pay this money or call the insurance and deal with all this crap. This is all just a story of complaining, basically, that I'm doing. Objectively speaking, two vehicles collided. There's no, it's just what happened. There's some people like smashing into cars, right?
Everything else after that is a story.
Right. Yeah. Some people, and the way you can know that for sure is about every situation ever. And this is difficult. It can be a challenging, tricky, and triggering one for me to say to people, that objectively all experience is neutral. All of it. That includes the most horrible things you can think of.
Yes.
And the best things you can think of.
Yes.
And because it's all of our perspective upon it. And the way you can know that for sure is that there are people that enjoy the horrible things that you despise.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That's why they happen. Because the people have a story to them is positive around these things. And then they go do them. And then you go, oh my God, what has that person done? And they're both stories. And that's challenging to recognize that both people are creating these stories, and that there's no objective ethical or moral stance to anything. And this is how we dissolve good and evil into unity, is through recognizing that there is no polarity truly, that what you're observing is a loving act between two souls. That's all you're observing. That's the truth of the matter. And then you have a story that's put on it. And so if you can like hold this awareness and remember that and stuff, that's, I think, the trick to letting go. Once you let go and accept that, like, so what I've found is if we keep getting triggered with something, it's because we haven't let it go, right? Especially if it's an old desire that keeps popping up, it's like we haven't let go of the need for it. So we don't have to let go of it coming towards us. The reason that we're having that experience is because we're noticing this lack of it. And if we let go of the whole thing, then the lack goes away. And then if the thing is meant for us, it'll come right in. So it's not only an effective peace technique to let go of everything, it's actually the best manifestation technique as well. So it's really clearly the only way to go is to forgive and let go, forgive and let go, and forgive and let go. You just always do that. And if you're not sure what to do, love, forgiveness, let go. That's always the answer. And the mind, though, fights it so much. That the mind wants to make so many excuses as to why that can't be the answer, or why it's not that simple. Or, yeah, you say that, Sean, but I went through this and it was the worst. I went through this for 20 years. I was locked in a prison somewhere. And I know that was your experience and story, and you can let go of that. And it's not the easiest thing to hear or say to people either. But that's truly how it is. And if we want to find peace, then that's the only way to find it, is to let go of those things. And it's a choice. It becomes a pretty conscious choice. I think you said there's stuff coming up that I haven't let go of. You're probably just not ready. And you can respect that of yourself as well, that I haven't been able to let go of all this because it just meant a lot to me, or it means a lot to me still, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Again, everything you said, I'm in 100% agreement with. And I think the process of letting go, and I'm sure you would agree, is the part of it is feeling everything around it, is the grieving. I don't think you can let go of something unless you have fully felt all of the feelings.
You have to actually imagine not having it, or not you have to literally put yourself in these positions of the grief of this was a Stoic practice that I really, really recommend to people. It's gives you a lot of perspective. When you're hugging your kids before they go to school or something, realize that this could be the last time you see them. In Stoicism, they call it memento mori, which is Latin for remember you die. Remember we die. Just remember that death is a thing. Remember that everything's dynamic, changing, that no matter what the universe seems to have promised you, Like, it is not guaranteed that these people will return from school. It's not guaranteed that your spouse will come back, or, you know, or something could happen to you as well, right? So you just sort of have that. You don't manifest these things. You don't dwell in them. You visit, like we've talked about a lot, you visit with these possibilities so that the mind like dips its toe into, you know, what these experiences could feel like just for a moment. And the amount of gratitude that you have for that not being the case overrides any type of manifestation or anything. You're literally just going into that to find gratitude for the moment now.
And I think all of this is just talking about being able to hold all of these truths and all of your feelings and all of your desires and all of your awareness of your soul's plan. It's just being a big enough vessel to really feel and hold it all, and not cut ourselves off from any of it, not suppress any of it, not avoid the pain that sometimes is going to come up. And part of what is just really poignant to me is, I think my human's dream, my original human's dream that I developed when I was a kid, was around basically avoiding as much emotional pain as possible.
Yeah.
And or like discomfort or unknowingness, or like
I think we perceive uncertainty, discomfort, and pain all sort of the same. It's all you know, very samey to the thinking mind, I think.
And really the truth seems to be that our expansion and our, in a way, even just our life force blossoming doesn't necessarily come through lack of pain and comfort and security. It's more the opposite.
Yeah.
It's more, you know, when we look back at times where, wow, I really grew, I really learned something, usually there was some amount of discomfort, at least in the beginning, to move through something in order to expand.
You don't even, you can't even recognize something that is good unless you've seen a bit of the opposite of it.
Yes.
Like that's why we do this whole thing. Yeah,
so
totally.
When I really think about it, my human dream really was to avoid discomfort and pain and like insecurity. That was my human's dream.
That's basically everyone's dream too, I think.
Yeah.
More or less.
Right. And that doesn't line up with my soul's plan for me. My soul wants me to expand.
This is what I meant too when I said, this is a really good way to frame it. When I've often said you start to become a participant in the lesson.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. You start to realize that although there are things that I want as a human, they don't align. It doesn't make sense. It's not right. And
not highest and
you
best.
Start to realize
it's not expansive.
You start to be able to see the plan a little.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I get it. I'm not supposed to do this thing. I wanted to do this for my whole life, but
it's not.
I guess I was wrong.
Not what's highest and best for me.
It's just not. Yeah.
And so another practice here that I find so helpful is for me to just redefine what success is. And I don't even really like that word. That word, I don't know, has a lot of...
I hate that word.
Great. Yeah, I don't really like that word. There's probably a better word I could use, but I'm just going to go with that word.
The word success implies that you can be unsuccessful or fail.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't like it.
I'm going to just stick with that word just for the time being. Maybe.
How dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
Might think of a better one as we unravel this idea. But what I want to say is, to me, success, I'll just put it in quotes, success.
I like the word virtuous. So to me, success is virtue, like whatever does that make sense? So
yeah, what I wanted to say really quickly is that to me, success is just staying in my alignment, is just having the courage to be out of my comfort zone. Whatever actually happens from there, to me, is not really that important. I mean, of course, my human wants things to happen, but on a soul level, if I'm just courageous enough to get out of my comfort zone, you know, to leave this marriage that I did, it was very hard, and want to leave my kids, or all the other things that I'm doing that are really out of my comfort zone. if I'm courageous enough to do that, I'm good. I'm aligned. I'm on my soul's journey.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens externally from there, icing on the cake. So that just brings me a lot of comfort that, okay, this isn't always comfortable. And sometimes I'm sad. And sometimes this situation is painful, but I am on my soul's journey. I haven't abandoned it. I haven't just gone back to my comfort zone and dulled myself and deadened myself. I'm on my path.
We look at it basically the exact same way. And so, yeah, instead of using the word successful, what I'd say is that we're always successful. It's not possible not to be. You always merge eventually with source.
Absolutely.
There's no other option.
Yes.
There's no part of the creator that's ever lost. Your consciousness can never be stolen and put somewhere, whatever. You always return to the creator. So it, some people take longer than others, but whatever. There's never an issue. So you can't be unsuccessful or fail. So really, I think when you say aligned, like that's what I basically, in every moment I'm assessing as much as I can manage every thought, every emotion, and every action, and just, is this virtuous? Am I being virtuous?
I like that. And I would maybe even, for me, I love like highest and best. Am I on my highest and best path?
The reason I don't use highest and best is because I can't fathom it personally. So for me to say that, I could say, is this my highest and best expression? I could use it that way, maybe. But for me, it's just easier for me to look at it as, am I observing, experiencing this in a virtuous way? Which just means, literally, it's, for me, am I experiencing this with love, or am I experiencing this with fear and some sort of tinge of negativity? And that's sort of the simplest way for me to look at it. And if we're observing it through negativity, then we're using that to come back to love. So that's also a success. So there's no failure there. It's just, it's just being aware of, oh, am I scared? Am I being a bit of an internal dick right now? Or am I, did I experience this very lovingly? Try to notice when you did really nice things, like get into a small fender bender and feel just peace the whole time, which happened to me and was great. But notice when those things occur and be happy for your sort of performance, I guess, like you're learning what is aligned with you and what isn't, right?
Yes. And I think a lot of what we're saying here is, I like this phrase, take it as a win. Just take it as a win when you are just doing your best and you're internally aligned.
Yeah, what else are you going to do?
And you're living in love and faith and not fear. That's the win. That's the win. Yep. The icing on the cake is what might happen externally, but the real win is that you are doing what you can. You are showing up. You are coming from love, not fear. You are having faith. You are being in your authenticity. You're pursuing your dreams.
There's
not cutting yourself off.
There's no other being. There's no other being which ever judges your progression. It's not like you meet with the higher self and then you do a test with you're the only one who's ever reviewing your evolution. You're your teacher. You could say that life is your teacher.
Yes.
But you're the teacher's assistant as well. So you're like the TA that's doing the work with yourself while life is teaching you. And you're the only one who grades yourself. And so
yes, there's no other person's opinion that really matters.
I didn't do this thing so well. Next time I'll try to do it a bit better. And you literally just pick and choose. Like sometimes people will say, hey, Sean, you did this and I hated it. Here's all the reasons I hated it. And then I can say, well, I mean, I don't feel that I was acting inharmonious with myself in those moments. And I'm sorry that you had that experience, but I'll do as I do. Right. Like, Maybe I become aware that my actions had consequences I wasn't aware of and go, oh, I didn't realize. And I can be like just more cognitive of these things. And I can, apologize that they experienced this, which you can do regardless. I'm sorry, forgive me. That's not what my intention was. But you can hold a power in a sovereignty, just understanding that I guide me. These critics don't guide me. They're offering me information. I can use it to help guide myself more, or I can discard it because it doesn't resonate. And that's why I always say, when I'm talking and stuff, I always say, like, if it doesn't resonate, throw it away, discard it, because I'm never trying to like criticize purposefully, or anything like that, or to trigger or do any of those things. I do it enough without ever even trying to. I seem to just do these things. So if you could take that sort of approach too with whatever anyone else says to you, even the people that you really love, you kind of just, I'm not suggesting we distance ourselves from it emotionally. I'm just suggesting that we take the information they offer us without personalizing it into a story, which is something that I have done in the past often with Tassel, where she may say, she may say something, and then I may feel criticized or something and pull away and try to close off and stuff like that. I'm doing that because a story I have that when someone does this, that something bad's about to happen and I gotta back up, and so there's this whole chain of events, and so if we can manage not to do that and not to fall into these stories, then we can not personalize their expression so much and not take it so like, take on this emotional strain that isn't ours. It's not, it's their emotional situation, and we can join them with it and hold space for it. But when we have to be really careful when we're taking it on as like, because we are doing it, they're not giving it to us and forcing it down our throats. We're taking it on. And then we tend to blame them for being sensitive or being whatever it is, right? We tend to blame others for our feelings. So if we can avoid all of that, which I'm trying to do, of course, but we end up realizing like it's all sort of neutral, and that they're just giving you information. And you may have noticed through their information some ways you can do things better, but you may not have. And either way is okay. And then you can just appreciate their expression and say thank you and try to meet them where they're at and hold space for their feelings. It doesn't have to be a detached thing at all. I'm not sure why I started to bring that up, but I wanted to make sure that I was clear that you don't have to detach or pull away to do these things, to distance yourself from the emotional state of it all a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I just had a few last little points that came up in part from everything that you shared. Something that I haven't really done that much, but that I think is a great practice is, in a challenging situation, how would my higher self respond to this situation? How would my highest consciousness respond to this situation?
Or I like to do the same thing. God, what would God say about this?
Yeah, same. Just
what would Jesus do?
Scaffolding. Just looking towards God, my highest consciousness, my highest self. How would they handle this? Just modeling. How would my higher self handle the situation? And then also, I just love this idea that obviously we're just eternal beings. We're always going to be on a path of expansion. And so this blanket of grace towards ourselves and others, that we don't have to just rush through and, I just wish I was better at this. I wish I handled this better. I wish my consciousness was more expansive in this way. Like, we can just,
I think,
chill.
It's a nice trait humans have, to be so like enamored with accomplishment.
Yeah,
it's a nice trait, but like it went way overboard, and it was part of the negative programming, sort of the elite trying to make people not recognize their innate divinity They have to
Yes.
do all these things to be worthy
Yes.
of love, basically.
Yes.
And so
And even
the whole
like
thing is,
yeah, and in like the more spiritual community, this maybe pressure we might feel of, oh, I'm not evolved enough, or
and
oh,
that's
I'm
just a
not
continuation of the same
of the
story,
achievement
right?
of consciousness achievement.
Right.
I'm not this sort of toxic consciousness achievement
It's
orientation.
very frustrating to deal with, actually, as a spiritual teacher. I don't know if you experience this at all, but I have people that just straight up try to argue with me about stuff as if I care to argue at all. I enjoy the banter, like, because I'm like, oh, this is interesting. They're telling me that this or that. But it can be really frustrating that people like basically get offended at like some of the stuff that I'll express. I think what happens is some people are like, oh, that's pretty deep. That awakened something within me. I find that interesting, and they may be thankful. Other people may read it and go, this is utter nonsense. I don't even know what he's saying. Much like when I first read Eckhart Tolle. I was like, this book is gibberish. It's gibberish. Yet I read it again. But because I'm like, my friend told me how amazing it was. But anyways, and then there's other people that like literally get mad. They get upset, and then they start to attack, right? Or call me names and do things like that. And a lot of times it's coming from, or seems to be coming from, this place of like, I don't feel spiritually developed enough. So I need to attack this guy who I'm perceiving as spiritually evolved or whatever. And that happens too. And then even on my side, I can get a little bit like, a little like circular in my own thoughts and forget about, the uniqueness of others' experiences and the wisdom of the soul. Like I can get lost back into the duality illusion of the human interactions and stuff as well. And so, I think we all do to some degree here and there. And so I can feel very like I know most people don't know, but I know. Right. And so I can give a little bit of that arrogance of, I know. And I know that I do that. And it's because when I'm saying what I'm saying, I know it, but so it comes across as certain, right? And it is, I know what I'm saying. So, but it's hard to do that without coming across egoic as well. And so, but anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about all that, but
yeah. And what I wanted to just say about the point I was making of like not giving ourselves grace for our consciousness evolution. I think from the spiritual orientation, it's a little easier to give ourselves grace about the external achievements. Like in a way, we kind of can see through that. And I'm still challenged by that myself. I'm not saying I'm over that. But for me, I want to just also give myself grace for my consciousness expansion, that there's always going to be more consciousness expansion that I can do. And there's always going to be ways that I wish emotionally I was a little bit different, whatever. But to give ourselves a blanket of grace, and then to even understand, we did a video, a live stream on North Node, South Node. So all of us are moving from our South Node aspects and embodying some of our North Node aspects. And it could be that we might even be in the first lifetime of this new North Node. So
it's possible.
What our soul is asking us to do in this lifetime, it could be something we've never done before. And we might
be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, we might have spent numerous lifetimes in our South Node. So just even to understand that where your soul is taking you on in this lifetime, it might be something really new and really uncomfortable for you. So just be your mother, be your best friend, be your champion, and give yourself so much grace just throughout every situation. That's all I have to say. Give yourself grace.
Yeah. And also appreciate that you're always going to sort of want something to change a bit. Like that's part of your nature as a being.
Yes.
is
as an
to like want
ever-evolving
to
being.
improve stuff, make stuff, create things, do stuff,
Yes.
whatever, right? You want to experience stuff. So you're not looking to like let go of every single thing under the sun as things you enjoy or whatever. But if you can let go of what's the word, when you're like doing a sort of positive self-talk about something you've done well, I think you want to dampen that as well. So I think what that does is reinforces the opposite. So I think when you are constantly congratulatory to yourself of your successes, when you do experience moments where you do something not as good, you're gonna probably feel a lot of contrast because you're used to being successful and congratulating yourself. If it's a framework of positivity in general, that's just baseline always, then that's great. But I'm more talking about the, I did this well. Basically, we're judging ourselves. We're saying I did this well, and judgment always comes back. And so
if you go back and forth between like celebrating yourself and then reprimanding yourself,
you'll always be humbled. You'll always be humbled when you celebrate yourself. The universe will always humble you at some point, and it's to balance the energy.
We could take the orientation of just, I'm going to celebrate myself no matter what
exactly.
I'm doing. I'm just like, I'm on the path. I'm doing my best. I'm going to follow.
I am amazing. That's it. There's no I am amazing because this or that about me.
Exactly. No, because. Yeah. And for everyone else too, that we're all perfect as is. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's maybe a good place to stop.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It's about an hour and 10 minutes. I thought that was good. I really enjoyed that one. If you guys liked it, click the like video if you haven't already. Consider subscribing. And we have a link below for Patreon if you want to join us there as well. If you have a click on that link and see what we're offering, that would be great. And other than that,
every blessing for making peace.
Make peace
with what is and your beautiful dreams as well.
And we'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.
Bye.